Today is August 15th, and today we're going to talk to some guys from Phoenix, Arizona about what makes Phoenix a friendly bike city. And then we're going to go talk to Glenn Bailey, chairperson of the LA Bicycle Advisory Committee. And he says the LA DOT is fighting bike lanes and covering it up. And we'll have some call-ins about that. But first, let's hear from the two guys from Phoenix, Gene and Kerry. And we'll cue that up now. We've got Gene Homerud with the Coalition of Arizona Bicyclists, an advocacy group statewide in Arizona. And we've got Kerry Wilcoxon, traffic engineer with the City of Phoenix Street Department. How you guys doing?
Good. Hi, Nick. Good. Sorry, Kerry. I'm Gene. Hi.
And, hey, and we wanted to talk about what makes Phoenix a bike-friendly city.
Well, I can say the City of Phoenix has been promoting and helping the last several years. I've worked with Kerry officially, and at the same time I teach classes. I'm a league cycling instructor out of the League of American Bicyclists, and proceed to make Phoenix and riding safer along the way. No, we're not perfect. There are other communities in the valley that do have rated as actually friendly communities by the league, but we're striving for that too.
How are you rated?
Phoenix is not, but other communities in the valley.
I think Scottsdale and Tempe are listed as official bike-friendly cities.
I think Glendale and either Gilbert or Chandler.
Yeah, it might be as well.
So why not Phoenix?
That's a great question. We've got, speaking from the City of Phoenix, we've probably in the last 10 years really started to try and incorporate bicycling into our sort of our master plan for transportation, really. We've got the roads. We've got the street grid that allows us to pretty much go anywhere by bike. What we've really been lacking, I think, has been the advocacy, and really on the governmental level. We have had a bike coordinator for a while, but that fund or that position was recently cut as budget cuts took hold. We had been looking at getting bike-friendly status. That was just one of the things that fell victim to the budget cuts. But that being said, we still have, depending on who you ask, we still have certain parts of the community that are probably more bike-friendly or bike-aware than others.
And what do you mean?
It can vary by council district a little bit, too.
Absolutely.
To be fair, citywide financial crisis been going on for about a year, and it really kind of hit earlier this year. And that hit, and nationwide that's been the case. So you can't point a finger at Phoenix saying, they're not still trying. Some of the things that we have done, Kerry talked about the grid. We're talking about bike lanes and bike paths. Along the canals are pretty good. There's one called the ACDC, Arizona Diversion Channel. They've really got about at least 20 miles long, and it has underpasses under all the streets along the way. The trail goes a little bit farther than that, but some of those you do have to stop and wait for traffic. The Valley Metro bus system, every bus has a rack, holds 2 or 3 bikes, averaging more than a million loadings per year.
Okay.
All the systems.
That sounds good.
Our light rail that started up this last December, it's like 21 miles. It's a starter system of great plans of 60-some-odd miles. Very bike-friendly, and that's not just because they put my picture on the front of the safety busher. There's bikes, half the time the racks are full, and there's still more people holding bikes. In fact, we actually have 4 racks per vehicle, which is twice the federal standard.
Can I ask why is your picture on the racks? Is that like an
happened to be at
advertisement?
the right place at the right time. There was a conference called Friends of Transit at the light rail facility, and they promised rides in the maintenance facility. And I normally ride whenever I can anyway, and it's about 8-9 miles from my home. And so I pedaled in that day, and somebody had a camera when I was standing there, and light rail people themselves heard me say several times how important bicycling is to possible customers. And they sent me an email saying, "Mind if we use your picture?" And I said, "No, no."
And the rest is history.
Yeah, that's big.
About that same time, Kerry said to me at a meeting, "You're famous." I said, "Huh?" I like to think that our advocacy and the education that I'm intensely involved in, make bicycling better in the valley, in Phoenix in particular.
I think in your email you said there's a lot of advocates on the city council.
Yeah, I'm thinking Stanton, but he took another position recently. Yeah. Kerry, are you up to date on that?
I know that Simplot has been also a pretty good bike advocate. He's got the district that's in the Tom Simplot is the name of the councilman. He's got the district in the central part of the city.
Mayor Gordon himself is
Mayor Gordon as well. Yeah,
right.
Sometimes they both participated in the Bike to Work days periodically.
Oh, that's another thing. Bike to Work Week.
Yeah, well, we do ours a little bit sooner than the rest of the country, but.
Kerry, you're in the decision-making body. You have a lot of influence, I would imagine, or some influence?
I think some influence is probably the best way to describe it.
I won't hold you that, Kerry.
Yeah.
We were the bike advocate for the city, or for the street department, used to work for me, and before his position was cut. And I do bike to work occasionally. I'm one of the people who started biking once the metro opened up. I'll bike down about 4 miles from my house to the metro line and catch that. But we've been trying to look at, in our street grid, improving connectivity among the bike lanes. The goal is to be able to develop a more formal grid system for our bike paths, so that if I was new to Phoenix and wanted to go to someplace uptown or wherever, anywhere in Phoenix, I'd go to Google Maps or Yahoo Maps and type in my destination, my starting point, my destination, and it would plot out a course for me, roads that I can take to get to wherever I wanted to go. But it assumes that I'm traveling by car. What I'd ultimately like to be able to do is have something similar to that, but for bike routes. Right. Or for bike trips, where you could go to the city grid map and say, hey, I live in this part of town, I want to go to this part of town, how do I bike there? And be reasonably certain that the map that's printed out will be able to give you a course that is a contiguous bike path, whether it uses surface streets, the trails, or the canals. You'd be able to go from point A to point B in a convenient manner.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, you need obviously two parts to that, but the most important part, as far as we're concerned, is just having the street grid system laid out, having the bike lanes present, and having them maintained to the point where they're not the dumping grounds for all the road debris. We're getting there, but we've got a ways to go.
I believe Google Maps, they're extending it to mass transit, where they will work with the individual operations of the bus systems, and they'll put those in. And there was a hint that bicycling could be included.
Right. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a active community in Phoenix like we do in LA? People who are pushing for bikers' rights? And
part of what we do in the coalition, and there's other organizations. There's Arizona Bicycling Club, ABC, they call it. They're mostly in the Valley, Phoenix, and surrounding cities. There's Phoenix Metro. They put on rides. There's one called Tempe Bicycle Action Group, TBAG for short. They're quite active. They also have a Bike Saviors, they call it. They recycle bike parts into usable bicycles for people that are, economically challenged.
Yeah.
I also just want to mention, too, we deal with a lot of neighborhood groups, a lot of advocacy groups. So there's a lot of competition there, but the bike advocacy groups have been usually pretty consistent. And for a lot of the street work that we're doing, Phoenix does have a great grid system, and our streets are pretty wide open. All of our new arterial streets, our cross-sections, are designed with room for bike lanes. A lot of our collector streets, or our medium-sized streets, are also that way. But the biggest problem that we have right now is trying to take a street or a city that's grown up basically around the car, the automobile, and try and retrofit not only bicycle lanes into the street grid, but really, a way of thinking for most drivers of, what, I'm sharing the road with bikes, and it's sometimes a daunting task. We take a look every year at our bike crashes, and I guess the good news is that our bike crashes are actually down for the last 3 calendar years.
What do you attribute that to?
I could say that it's attributed to better awareness,
design,
like that, better street system. But one of the problems in our analysis is we don't know what the number of bicyclists on the road at any given time are. So we don't know whether it's actually dropping because there are fewer bicyclists or because there are fewer bicyclists being hit. We are seeing a drop.
Great. Yeah, I got to take a look at that data. You asked me to do some review.
Yeah, we're hoping that it's a harbinger of good things. And we have about 33,000 crashes on city streets each year of all types of vehicles. But for the last year that we have data for, 440 of those crashes were actually car, bike. But for obvious reasons, even though there are relatively very few crashes between bicyclists and cars, the overwhelming majority of bicycle crashes end up in an injury or a death to a bicyclist. So
it's not exactly equal.
Yeah. And of course, you see the same thing with pedestrians as well. But what we're trying to figure out is how to use the crash data in such a way that we educate drivers and bicycle riders, for the most part, on how to protect themselves and how to be better road users.
I was wondering, because our hours of darkness and hours of daylight, vary, how much that affected it.
It seems like in most cases, in most years, the high bike crash months are going to be April, March, September, October. The high crash days are going to be during the middle of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And your crash times are going to be morning and afternoon commute, when you have the most number of both bicyclists and cars on the road. But
the months you mentioned are the calmest in terms of temperature. I mean, it never really gets that cold. Rarely gets that cold.
Yeah.
In the winter, but still, people it's spring. It's great. We'll ride. And then in the fall, I'm glad the heat's over. Let me ride a little bit of riding.
Right.
But the data I think you have is pre $5 gasoline charges.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that. We just got the 2008 crash data, and it'll be interesting to see what the effect is of the higher gas prices. The other thing to keep in mind is whenever we get a downturn in the economy, all crashes go down. Car crashes are down as well, although we're still getting over 30,000 crashes.
Yeah. Let's try to keep them down and pump the economy at the same time.
Well, that's right.
Are there cities that you follow in terms of bike infrastructure or advocacy, like models? Is there something about your city that you feel that others should follow?
It's a great question. I guess I would say that when we look at bike advocacy, the places I look for, I think about, are Portland and the state of Washington, and the areas up in the northwest part of the country. I think when you look at city planning, people tend to look to the northeast, where you have cities that are actually set up with the density that you can use bikes as a more viable daily transportation alternative. You really have a lot of things going on. It's hard to actually look at a city and say, we want to be like that. But I would say that right now we are trying to work work bikes into our street grid as best we can. But we're really looking, I think, at the cities of Tempe and Scottsdale as far as
nearby
local models.
Recently did 15th Avenue there, and a month or so after it was opened, I pedaled literally the whole length, took the whole thing, and it was nice.
Yeah, that's good.
It was a half section street. We talk about the main grid is everything's on a mile basis, and the half section street, so-called collector street, half mile between the main streets. 15th Avenue is one of them, and so although it does have a good amount of traffic, it's got to be thousands of cars a day, but it's not the 4-lane boulevard that some of the section streets are.
Yeah.
So it was able to have a lane, a two-way left turn lane, a motor vehicle lane, and a bike lane on each side. You probably still collecting accident or collision statistics on that app, aren't you?
We are. Although, It's kind of interesting. We've probably put more bike lanes in Phoenix, where we're retrofitting them. We probably put more of them in the last few years as a result of traffic calming than as a direct response to, hey, let's put a bike lane here. We use bike lanes quite a bit to eat up pavement, where otherwise you would have a 19, 20-foot lane. You can put a bike lane in, and it cuts it down to, not only does it cut it down by 5 feet, something like 15 feet, but it also forces traffic away from the sides of the road. And it really defines where cars and bikes and to some extent pedestrians need to be. So we've used that technique in a lot of places, and as a result, the bike trail or bike route grid has really expanded.
You didn't do it just for us? I'm kidding.
I'd like to think that, but
yeah. You touched on a question that Nick asked me when we talked a couple of days ago. Encouraging to ride farther out into the street because people tend to change lanes farther back. If you're hunched up against the curb, all you're doing is encouraging the motor vehiclist to pass you when there is not enough lane closer to you and where there's not enough space to do it safely.
Right.
When you're out there and claim your legal part of the road, people recognize that. Of course, wearing bright clothes and being very obvious and consistent is part of the equation too.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, maybe we should have a segment where we talk about all of the stuff that you can learn in one of your courses, Gene.
I'd like to do that.
So, do you guys have any people you want to thank?
Well, I'd like to thank the biking community in Phoenix. I think they've really changed the discussion. As I indicated, Phoenix has really been set up as an automobile city, and the biking community has been shouting from the rooftops for some time that we want a place.
Recognition. We're a legitimate form of transportation, and
right.
And we're talking to the choir here, but 10-year-old kids that have diabetes because their mothers drive them to school, and then their mothers go to gyms and ride stationary bicycles.
Yeah.
Let that one wash over you for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. So, guys, I want to follow up, and I want to keep up with this, and I want to put any articles you have on our page at KPFK.
Oh, super.
And
okay, well, I can give you our URL, the coalition. It's www.cazbike.org. The C, of course, stands for coalition, and the AZ is Arizona Bike.org. I already talked about the bikeleague.org. That's the League of American Bicyclists. City Phoenix has a URL or two, doesn't it, Gary?
We do. www.phoenix.gov.
Well, thank you very much, both of you, Carrie and Gene.
Thank you for calling us.
And so that was Gene and Carrie from Phoenix, Arizona. And if anybody wants to call in on the subject of whether Phoenix is a bike-friendly city, the number here is 213-252-0998. And we have Jim here in the studio. Jim C. has just arrived. We got Chicken Leather. And, of course, we have our sound engineer, Eric, and we got Stephen Bowers. So who wants to go? Anybody want to call in? 213-252-0998. Here's Jim.
It's interesting, to hear about what Phoenix is doing to become a part of the bicycle community, because for years they've been a part of the Southern Tier route across country, the Adventure Cycling Association, and I know that cross-country cyclists go through there all the time. So it's really good to hear that they're actually trying to set this up so that they have an infrastructure in place through the city that creates routes, not just through a large association located in Montana that is putting routes through their city without them knowing about it,
Yeah, so they go right through the city of Phoenix when they cross through Arizona?
The Southern Tier route goes through several of the Mesa, Tempe, several of the small outlying areas, and goes right through Phoenix, yeah.
So, yeah, I called a couple people about letting us know about Phoenix, like Patrick from Bike Saviors, or there's a group called Teabag, but it seems like we're not set up with a call right now. So want to keep going about Phoenix, or do you want to go on to another subject?
Did you say teabag?
No.
Well, so let's see. Talking about what cities are doing to promote cycling and what people are doing to promote cycling, and even cross-country routes. There's been going on the 42 Below cross-country ride in support of the Bicycle Film Festival, and that's going to be ending here in Los Angeles next week.
Well, that's great. Nick's mom is on the phone now, all the way from France. I guess she was there for the Tour de France. How did she do this year in the tour?
Mom, are you there for the Tour de France? No, right?
That's right. I'm in it. Just a little late.
Well, how are you doing?
I'm good. I just wanted to give my impressions of how bike-friendly the south of France is. I'm not Phoenix, but just anecdotally, it seems incredibly bike-friendly, this whole area. Driving a car, especially a big sort of American or German car, down these tiny little winding, steep streets down to the sea, or sitting in endless traffic, just sitting there, you notice alongside of you lanes that are called pistes cyclables, or bikeable lanes, and people are biking happily along and sticking it to the guy not really, they're very pleasant, but people sitting in their cars are just sitting there for hours on end.
So it's like here during rush hours, you can go faster than cars.
Yes, absolutely.
So are you thinking of getting on a bike out there?
Well, but that then I also read about a poll taken that showed that the great majority of Parisians are afraid of biking in the city, and there's a whole campaign to make them less afraid. Whole agencies that are designed to sort of guide them through safety laws and safety rules and things.
What makes them so much more? Yeah.
I'm a little fearful of biking.
Well, just because other people are fearful? You think they must have a reason?
I think people in cities, who haven't done it regularly have reasons. I mean, some are valid. There are accidents. And there's been a great increase in accidents in Paris since there's been an increase of bike riding.
Well, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your trip. And
thank you. Great show.
Sounds great.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Mom.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Love you.
Wow, it's great to hear from your mom. I know in Paris, the city itself, they also have a lot of the bike programs there. You put a franc in and you get to ride a short distance on the bike. That's funded also by they've figured out a way to do that by advertisement. So that's a component that hasn't been used here a lot. People think that you have to initially make a lot of money without spending a lot of money to get a program like that started, but it was just the opposite there. They built the inroads of what kind of advertising would be most applicable to bike riding and health and what have you, and then it became full circle. And I think it was the Universal offshoot here in this country, the conglomerate that ran it there, that was able to solidify in Paris this movement, so as they can have that.
There are actually two as well. We've talked about it here. There are a couple of companies in the States, a couple of advertising agencies that are getting behind some of the programs. Brad would be the person that knows a little bit more about that, but B-Cycle was one of the ones that was actually putting in bids in cities across the country in order to try and get some of the business as a kind of a bike loan station. And I know that Washington, D.C. right now is one of the cities that has implemented a station with series of bicycles, but I think they are on a very small scale compared to Paris, which did it in huge numbers.
Yeah, they've also made the commitment to alleviate some of the traffic problems, or as they were saying in Phoenix, traffic calming kind of situations, almost putting the road on a traffic diet in some sessions. This is similar to how they're trying to get a couple of test streets here in Los Angeles to do that. I know that for a long time they've been touting somewhere downtown for this, but it seems it's the same section of town they've always been doing.
Speaking of that, I had an interesting conversation with Allison, one of the girls from the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition, who's been working hard on the Ciclavia project, which is something that they're still looking for funding for. Ciclavia, they're planning on doing this in the next year. They are currently trying to establish a route in order to close a street. And for Ciclavia, for people who aren't familiar with it, it's something that started in Colombia. It's basically they close down a series of boulevards once a week, and they open it up to the public, and they let people ride bikes on it, walk on it, set up art on it. They even have yoga classes. It becomes a public space. They turn the street into a public space, and a lot of cyclists use these spaces in order to ride around the town. And they're working on doing the pilot program here next year, and they're still looking for funding because it is going to cost a fairly decent amount of money in order to shut down the street. Yeah, and then they have to hire the police. And
that's what it comes down to, a lot of law enforcement. It was funny because something similar to that happened a couple of Sundays ago in Pershing Square, and I was privy to it, where the art community came out, some of the LA Conservancy came out, and law enforcement, some of their advisory agencies and what have you, to reinforce the fact that the streets are ours. They also dedicated a dog park there in Pershing Square. And what they were trying to do is just tell people that with this short little bike ride around the neighborhood that it was okay to ride on a Sunday morning as opposed to how you might feel. And they got people that I have never seen before. Safety Cycle actually sponsored it. Will, who comes out, and he's worked there before. And one of the things I really sensed was that a lot of these people use bikes more in a recreational point of view. But there were a couple people, and there was one person in particular that came from Boston. He heard this was going on, and he said, I'm from Bikes Not Bombs. In fact, he had the shirt, and I talked to him about it. Bikes Not Bombs does a great deal of work getting bikes to people in Africa. I know that and this comes full circle, at the last Bicycle Film Festival, they had a short film about that, and they also had a short film about AfriCycle, where
I was actually going to bring that up. And this year they're doing another film about cycling in Africa. It's called Where Are You Go? And it's a story about some guys who rode from Egypt down to Cape Town.
I love those long distance ones. They also had some Germans. They were entrepreneurs and media people that rode through the Himalayas. And it was fun to see that. And it's always like you think, oh, my God, don't you get tired after the first day? And they go, well, of course you do. You get tired after the first week, after the first month. But it's that dedication to spirit that keeps you going. And conversely, you don't have to go to Africa or somewhere else to experience the same kind of freedom that a bicycle gives. In Los Angeles here, if you're interested in getting into the idea of infrastructure and a bike diet, tomorrow night at the Bike Oven, we're having an impromptu Bike the Talk, not Bike Talk, but it's almost like you walk the walk, you bike the talk, and then you get out there and we talk about different ways to do some own traffic calming. One of them was to produce some signs for the Lincoln Heights area where the traffic around the DMV tends to be people that are either mad about paying the higher rate to register their car or something with their vehicle, and so they're always speeding out of there. And children are at risk. I don't think anybody has really been hit, but there's been a lot of near misses, and so we've taken it upon ourselves because, as you know, Highland Park is just a hop, skip, and a bike ride across from Lincoln Heights.
Right.
And a lot of our members live there. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We also have an informal kind of meal and a few drinks. And there's a telephone to stop me from talking on. Anyway, I digress, and these are just some of the things that we've adapted from a lot of people. I know when the Bike Summit was here in town earlier in the year, there were some people from Portland that had some suggestions about how the Cyclavia and soccer and other programs were able to give their city a feel that it wasn't just about car transportation, but there was also a component that could be public transportation, what we would consider rail, bus, the traditional ones, and of course the bicycle, which we're talking about because it is Bike Talk. Here you go.
On the phone right now, we have Glenn Bailey, and we've been talking over the course of the day about different things that Phoenix is doing, that LA is doing, in order to improve our cycling situation. And I know Glenn Bailey has been very involved in the Reseda bicycle bike lane conundrum that we found ourselves in. So hopefully I'm going to let him explain himself and what's going on there, and also tell us a little bit about what he does for Los Angeles. So here we go.
He had an open letter earlier that he sent out.
Sure did. So if you're a member of our email, livebiketalk@gmail.com, we generally try and keep you updated as to what's going on and what's going to be on the show. So let's have a listen with Glenn Bailey. Glenn, this is Jim. How are you doing today?
Good morning. How are you?
Fantastic. Glenn, first of all, can I get you to explain who you are and what you do for cycling in Los Angeles?
Well, I am on the city's bicycle advisory committee. That's my connection to bicycling in LA, besides a longtime cyclist. And then earlier this year, I was elected to be the chair of that committee. It is advisory to the city, all of the city of Los Angeles, dealing with bicycle matters. And that includes the various departments as well as the city council and the mayor. And there's 19 members, one from each council member appointee, plus 4 from the mayor's office, total of 19 members. And we meet every 2 months, first Tuesday of every even-numbered month.
Well, really quick here before we get too serious, I want to ask you about what kind of riding you do. You said you're a long-time rider in Los Angeles. What kind of bike do you have?
Well, actually, right now I ride only mountain bikes on city streets because I've just found it to be safer and not having to worry as much about my personal safety with regards to the various potholes and street disrepair, etc. So I, for many years rode a road bike, but about 1990, I think, is when I transitioned to mountain bikes. And it's more work, more exercise, but it also, I've had a lot less flat tires, a lot less problems with that. So but that doesn't mean that, I'm advocating that for everyone, and it doesn't mean that, I'm not dedicated to improving the condition of city streets. That's just my personal choice. So
do you have a name for your bike?
I don't.
Okay.
It's just my bike.
And what kind of bike is it?
Well, the one I use most frequently is Gary Fisher.
Okay, all right. Okay, Glenn, so I know that there's been some controversy lately, and you, from the emails that I've gotten or that I've read, it sounds like you've been on top of what's happening. I was hoping that maybe you could give us a little bit of a breakdown of what's going on in Reseda.
Sure. Actually, it's Reseda, Northridge. Actually, it started in Northridge. The city Bicycle Advisory Committee meeting at its June 2nd meeting received a report of various bicycle projects.
Right.
And there were the status of 10 different bicycle projects. And it was part of, a lot of other communications that we get associated with a rather long agenda, which is my doing. As chair, I've tried to be all-inclusive of the different issues. Mm-hmm. But in any case, on that particular list of bike lane projects status report, one of those projects was listed a Reseda Boulevard project in Northridge, from Nordhoff Street to Rinaldi Street. That's a 3-mile segment. And on that report, it indicated, and first of all, let me just indicate that all of Reseda Boulevard is indicated on the 1996 city-approved bicycle master plan as having bike lanes for the entire length of Reseda Boulevard. That's 10.8 miles.
Now, really quickly here, I'm not trying to pull us away from the subject, but on the 96 master plan, how many of the bike lanes, what percentage of those bike lanes that it shows should be there are actually there in place?
Well, I don't have that percentage, but unfortunately it's not high enough. I know that for a fact.
Hey.
But as far as Reseda Boulevard, there are some segments that have been installed. 5 miles to the south, from Van Owen south into the Santa Monica Mountains to basically the terminus of Reseda Boulevard. And then to the north of Rinaldi to Cessnon, there's about maybe a mile plus segment. So of the 10.8 miles, approximately half have been actually put in.
Right.
And that's actually a pretty good percentage, I think, compared to other
to
streets.
The rest of the city?
Yeah, because a lot of the streets that are shown on the plan have had zero lanes installed.
Right.
Anyway, that's just the situation for Reseda. So it was exciting to see that at least it was on the radar screen for this portion of Reseda Boulevard, particularly because Cal State University Northridge, which is the largest university in the valley and one of the largest in the state, is right adjacent to the east of this segment.
Yeah.
And so it could potentially serve a student body population of up to 40,000 students, and plus faculty and staff. That seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
In any case, in the status comment, the notation that was made for the status of this particular project was West, and I'm quoting now, West Valley District does not concur with the project, cites peak hour lane usage in near future. That's a direct quote.
So just for the record here, peak hour lane usage would preclude any kind of bicycle lane because in an area where you have parking and peak hour lanes, they remove the parking during the peak hours, and the bicycle lane is usually sandwiched between the parking lane and the regular flow of traffic.
Yeah, I just can't think of any exception that I've seen.
Right.
Where it's not the parking lane, then the bicycle lane. And if you do allow parking, obviously the parking is next to the curb lane, you wouldn't have the bicycle lane except way on the other side of the parked vehicles.
Well,
so it just that's just the way it would work to allow parking for some of the time. And then the other issue is just there physically has to be the road space for a bike lane too. So you wouldn't want to have peak hour travel on the lane next to the curb, then a bike lane out past that. I mean, that's obviously is not the way any of us would want to.
So at this point, you kind of went to bat for cyclists, and you went to find out why this peak hour lane was planning on being installed. What did you find out?
Well, I have to admit that I wasn't as quickly on Johnny on the spot on this as perhaps in retrospect I should have been. But I did make some inquiries over the next few weeks, because I don't live in Northridge, but I've worked in Northridge for many years in the past, and I've had a great deal of familiarity over the years with this area, and never heard of putting in peak hour lanes, and I couldn't actually visualize it how it could be successful given the land uses that are there in terms of businesses and residential, et cetera. So I made some casual inquiries over the next few weeks, and turned up no information whatsoever. And I also checked the city clerk's city council file index online. It found no reference to Reseda Boulevard peak hour lanes or anything similar.
So who was planning on putting in these lanes? Was somebody planning on going and putting up signs and doing it by themselves?
No, it was a section of DOT. So what I did before actually contacting this memo that we got as bicycle committee members was from DOT that was in the bikeway section assigned to staff these projects and working with the bicycle advisory committee. And while I'm mentioning that, I may say that the staff person involved with that, Paul Meshkin, is really should be considered an exemplary DOT employee, because he basically did his job reporting the status of these projects, unfiltered, and giving the correct information based on everything we know at this point in time. And, that's really what I expect, the public should expect from their public employees, to be honest, to tell the truth, and that's exactly what Paul Meshkin did. So I consider him a hero of all this. from Department of Transportation. So, having said that, my next step was that I made contact with all of the board members of the Northridge.
Really quick here, I just want to point out the fact that you think that somebody who did their job at the DOT is a hero. So, I just want to point that out to anybody who's listening. Okay.
Okay. I think commendation should be given where it's due, because there's certainly been a lot of criticism for other folks.
Yeah.
DOT. So, and although I think he deserves a promotion, I'm afraid if he got a promotion, then he would leave the bikeways unit. And I think we need people of his caliber to help us get more bike lanes and bikeways in the city. But anyway, my next step then, after not finding any information through my normal sources, was to contact the two neighborhood councils in Northridge, the Northridge West and the Northridge East neighborhood councils, and I also contacted the Chamber of Commerce. I did this later in June, and none of them had any information regarding peak hour lane. Proposal, mention, anything wasn't on the radar screen. So once I got back those replies a few days later, I did contact the West Valley District of Department of Transportation. And the first staff person I spoke with didn't have any information, but said he'd call me back right away that day, and didn't the next day. So in the meantime, I had prepared an email to the district engineer regarding the subject with some questions, and I sent it that initial day of my inquiry. When I didn't get a reply by the third day, I put another phone call in and actually spoke with that district engineer. His name is Ken Feruzman, and his name has been mentioned in a lot of news reports. And the telephone conversation that I had with him basically confirmed, in essence, the notation the status report that I read to you a little earlier. And so I wrote up basically wrote up the outcome of that phone conversation, sent it out to to those two neighborhood councils, just so that they had that information. But basically what Mr. Beruzman said was that it was DOT's goal to install the peak hour lanes on Reseda Boulevard, that Northridge would likely be the initial phase because of the traffic presumably associated with generated by the university. Yeah, but eventually they'd be installed the entire length of Reseda Boulevard from the Ventura Freeway and the 101 Ventura Boulevard 101 Freeway north to the 118 Freeway in Rinaldi Street. He said that the time frame was at least a year from then, and that they would notify the city council offices and the neighborhood councils, and the actual timing depending on the amount of staffing and the workload that they had. And so I want to make it real clear that never did they say that there would be something happening imminently, like in the next week or the next month.
Right. Yeah.
It was very clear, at least a year from now. My concern and desire in following up on this is that while they had this intention and plans for the future, undefined exactly how long and far it would be away it would be, was in the meantime that we were not having any, there was no bike lanes being installed, and they could have been. So when I raised that issue of the bike lane project, specifically this Nordhoff to Rinaldi section on Reseda, the 3 miles, he confirmed his opposition to that particular project, and specifically said because it would preclude the peak hour lane from being installed there.
Okay, I want to try and summarize a little bit of what happened after this, because this is a really long, really involved process. But what happened? Somebody got this motion onto a board meeting in Northridge, right?
Right. Basically, because of my earlier inquiry, plus I sent out the outcome of this conversation with Fruzman to those neighborhood councils. One of them put it on the agenda on July, and I did speak before that council. No, it was just the topic was on. There was no proposed action. I did speak on what I knew at that time in mid-July to Northridge East Neighborhood Council. For the August 11th meeting, and before that, let me just say I also visited the Reseda Neighborhood Council and just made an introduction of the subject. None of them knew about this either. So the August 11th Neighborhood Council, Northridge West Neighborhood Council you're inquiring about, did have it on their agenda with a specific motion made to support the installation of the peak hour lanes.
Okay, now here's where I really start to get interested in this, because you, at this point now, this whole thing has been like pretty much a labor of love of yours and the fellow from DOT whose name I can't remember, Ken, and it seems to be kind of a battle between the two of you guys. And I know that there were some email alerts that went out, some action alerts from the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition, and you ended up getting some support, I understand. Is that right?
For that particular meeting, but I just need to back up 1 minute and give acknowledgement to the Biking in LA blog, because they actually basically broke the story first publicly as a result of comments that I made at the Bicycle Advisory Committee meeting at the end of the meeting the night that week before, and said, "Hey, that sounds like an interesting story. Can I talk to you, and could we do up a story on that?" And they did, and I think they did a great job on it, especially because of the timeliness of this particular meeting with that particular item on the agenda, the way it was phrased. And yes, I did get alarmed about that, and I think that was reflected in the blog article, and certainly once that came out, others like the county coalition sent out the alerts.
Is there anyone you'd like to thank there at Biking in LA?
Ted Rogers, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was at the meeting at the Bicycle Advisory Committee and stuck it out to the end, and that in and of itself is good. So yeah. So that kind of got things moving. Now, again, it is accurate, and I hope people don't think that we were crying wolf or something unnecessarily, because it's accurate that if that motion had been passed to implement, because the motion was not just for Northridge, the motion was for the entire length of Reseda Boulevard, and if that had passed and gotten implemented, it not only would preclude this future bike lane in Northridge of 3 miles that triggered this thing to begin with, but it also would have resulted ultimately in the removal of the bike lane that already exists south of Van Owen down to Ventura Boulevard.
Right.
Not that anyone ever said that was going to happen immediately, but it certainly would be of concern that if anyone paid attention to what the neighborhood council said and took a position supporting this, that could be the eventual outcome. And so 15 cyclists made their way to Northridge, and some of them didn't have to go that far, but others did, and I appreciate their personal sacrifice and effort in doing so on very short notice. There were also 45 residents of people from the community who showed up who were adamantly opposed to putting in the peak hour lanes because of the impact it would have on their property and their ability to actually just park in front of their homes. But the good thing of all this is that the homeowners on Reseda Boulevard got to see the advantages of having a bike lane in front of their homes. Yeah. I spoke to many of them who really said, that would be a good thing. One gentleman said his son rides his bicycle to the university.
Yep.
And having the bike lanes on Reseda would make that commute a little bit better. Others have reported their vehicles being hit by other cars on Reseda Boulevard, and even though a bike lane is just two stripes of paint on the asphalt, some drivers need to have those lines to keep them stay between the two lines. So I think that 5-foot buffer would be great for cyclists, and it would be great for the residents of Reseda Boulevard. So I think we made some friends there, the bicycling community, and some of the homeowners did speak out in favor of the bike lanes. They, of course, realized that having the bike lanes installed would preclude, hopefully forever, the installation of peak hour lanes. And that's really what this battle is all about. Bike lanes versus peak hour lanes.
So I think this is a great victory, albeit in the grand scheme of things. How is this something that is a vision of what we're going to have to deal with in the future? Are we going to have more of these little 3-mile battles.
Yeah,
I hope
not. I hope not, because a lot of us have a lot of other things to do in our lives, or a lot of other things we'd like to work on. Promoting bicycling. But if it has to be 3-mile segments by 3-mile segments and get that fight, then we'll do that, because frankly we haven't seen a lot of activity over the recent years, and part of the reason is, at least, and I can't speak for the whole city, but I hope to shortly, because I'm putting the word out to everyone, whether they're on the Bicycle Advisory Committee or not, that if they're aware of streets that have been planned in the existing 1996 bicycle plan that shows bicycle lanes that are now been have peak hour lanes installed, I'd like to know about that, because I'd like to see if this is a pattern throughout the city, or if this is just something that is happening in the West Valley because of the particular preferences of the particular district engineer.
Right.
We'll be looking into that. You'll hear more about that later, I'm sure.
Is
but in
there
the meantime,
some place where people can get a copy of the 1996 Bicycle Master Plan and can check out their own neighborhood?
Yes, it is actually online, but I don't have that email address.
Okay.
I mean, the website right handy here. It's through the planning department. So LA City Planning Department website, if they go there, they can find it.
So if they Google 1996 Bicycle Master Plan, LA City Planning Department.
Hopefully. And if not, I'd be happy to respond to any emails.
Where can we email you at?
It's Glenn Bailey, it's GLENN, Bailey, B as in boy, AILEY, SFV for San Fernando Valley.
Yep.
At yahoo.com.
Okay. And Glenn, I'd like to thank you for your work on this, and for your work supporting cyclists and cyclist rights on the streets. I'm definitely very interested to. One of the things that I'm interested in pointing out is that we had 45 residents backing up 15 cyclists. So that's a really strong image there. 3 times as many people were there that were not in the cycling as were represented by the cycling community. So it's a good reason to ride respectfully. So you don't want to piss off some resident in their area, and then have them not back you up on your motion to put a bike lane through it.
Well, obviously, cyclists are, a minority constituency. We need to work together with other folks, and I think building a coalition of the homeowners plus other residents, apartment building managers, who also oppose peak hour lane being installed, as well as the business community, the small businesses on Reseda Boulevard. If we build that coalition successfully, I think, not only will we get these 3 miles in Northridge installed, maybe we can get all the rest of Reseda Boulevard put in, sooner rather than later. So I do think that for this particular effort, that coalition, I think, will be help us be successful and help us get the lanes in. Yes.
Is there anything coming up here that you can think of that you need more people for, that you need more cyclists for? Any call to arms that you'd like to make, or is there anything coming up that you would like people to get involved in for fun?
Well, unfortunately, I probably don't have as much fun as I should have because I'm dealing with these sorts of things. If everyone did their job the way they were supposed to be doing, then I and other cyclists would have some more fun. But having said that, the single most important thing that will affect the entire city of Los Angeles is the new bicycle plan that is expected to come out maybe in a day or a week or 2 weeks. Of course, we've been hearing that for a few months now, but it's imminent. It will be coming out possibly later this month. And since the last plan that this is fundamentally replacing was 13 years ago, even though there was a couple of revisions and reinstatements over those years. But it's fundamentally reshaping the way the city would deal with bicycle policy and bicycle facilities.
At least 30% of it, right? Because if this bicycle master plan gets treated with the same kind of deference that the last one did, then we're going to see maybe 25, 30, 40%, 60% if we're lucky of these bicycle lanes implemented.
Well,
or this infrastructure implemented.
I think, unfortunately, it's even scarier than that. And I haven't, even though I'm chair of the city's bicycle advisory committee, I have not. I'm not in the inner loop to get the document. I have to wait till it's released to the whole public, general public. But from what I do understand from people who are serving on the technical advisory committees and that sort of thing, and we've been briefed, and that's proper, and that's part of the role, is that there's a fundamental shift in looking at how designations are being made for the city in terms of where they're putting bicycle facilities. And it appears that they're moving more to the collector streets,
right?
Which are typically more residential in large parts of the city, and away from the major and secondary highways, which Reseda Boulevard is a primary highway. And I think that's a fundamental shift that I think the cyclists need to be very much aware of and be very engaged in when this plan comes out. And that may be partially a good thing, but on the other hand, it also, because some folks just don't want to ride on busy streets, whether there's a bike lane on them or not.
Right.
But others, do want to have the opportunity to be able to get where they're going, because it is on the major street. And when you're on the major street, then you want to be able to have that ability. Even though it's a line, it's also awareness. So it just helps the cars be aware that there are or will be or could be bicyclists there. And like I said, my observation over the years is that many motorists need those white lines to stay in between. If we didn't have lanes striped on our streets, it would we'd be a lot worse off. So my point is that my main message for probably the next several months, as this plan is released, and there will be public workshops, and I'm sure that that'll get announced on your show once those become knowledge.
We're going to do our best to get the word out there. Yeah.
Okay, and then it'll go through the city process. It'll go through the city planning commission. It'll go to the city council for approval, and this is going to be a major effort, I believe, because there may be things in this plan that we like and we need to support to make sure they get kept in the plan. But there may also be some elements where we don't think it's gone far enough, or elements that we just don't like at all.
What kind of time frame are we going to have in order to discuss and to change any of the proposed changes on the bicycle master plan once we get a chance to review it?
That's a kind of a moving target. I'd say we would have at least a month, which probably is not long enough, but it would be at least a month. They will release the plan. They will announce the 4 public workshops in the various parts of the city, and then they will take that input, presumably, and I don't know if they'll make any changes at that point or just go directly to the City Planning Commission. From the City Planning Commission, then it would be, probably a few weeks, if not a few months, going to the City Council Committee. Keep in mind, the original timetable was that this was going to be to City Council for adoption this past June.
Yeah.
So things haven't gone exactly to schedule, and that's not necessarily a bad thing in terms of, if we're considering, fully considering the input of that everyone has provided, and there has been a lot of input provided. There have been 300 people that attended the workshops last year when the initial go around. There have been, I understand, over 1,000 website comments that have been submitted. That's good if it's being listened to, but
what can we do? Is there something that we should do to kind of kickstart the implementation of some of the programs that are, or some of the changes that are being suggested? Would there be something like a bicycle master plan release party or something to kind of get people involved, to get people to show City Council that we want these changes to come? Do you understand what I mean? Something that we could do as a gathering as cyclists with the release of the bicycle master plan to show that we stand behind any development changes that would be positive for us.
Well, I think the nature and tone of that particular public event would kind of depend on the content of the plan. They could be a very celebratory type of event or not, depending on what's actually in this plan. In other words, some people have said that it's actually taking some steps backwards, and that clearly is not anything that any of us want to do. But until it actually comes out, I don't want to speculate on that. In the meantime, what I will say in the meantime is let people know this is coming, and that to make it a priority to if they could just squeeze in the extra time or just make an effort to participate, because once this gets adopted, it'll be the plan we'll have to live with. In the case of the last one, it was 13 years before any meaningful changes were done. Technically, it's supposed to be readopted every 5 years, but sometimes they just say, okay, this is our past plan. Let's readopt it as is, and that's what happened last time. So I can't comment on any of this until we actually see what the content is. We'll do our best to get the word out, and certainly the advocacy groups, such as the LA County Bicycle Coalition, I'm sure will absolutely be doing their best to do that as well. I'm sure a lot of the blogs will also contain information, articles, and that sort of thing. So there'll be an opportunity for people to participate via the workshops and also in terms of online and being able to make comments, that sort of thing. But ultimately, this is a political process. It'll be a political decision, and it goes through the various levels in the city.
Well, one of the things I'd like to put out there, I know that Los Angeles is a very politically involved city, and I know that there are a lot of people who are living here who are not as politically involved as they should be, and not as politically active as they should be. And I think that if we were to create some sort of rally, some sort of, like we said, some bike stock, something that gave people a reason to come out other than to sit at a meeting, then we could possibly get a better count, a better idea of how many cyclists are in support of having some radical action done. And by that I mean at least bike lanes. I'm calling bike lanes radical action. Just something to make people feel a little bit safer in this town. And I think that's a point that we heard earlier from Nick's mom, who's in Paris right now and is not going to ride around because she doesn't feel safe. Well, Los Angeles is not Paris, and we don't have a bike rental system. We've got people coming in from out of town. We've got a lot of transient people who live here, and what would be awesome is to have some way of collecting some information about how many people are doing this. And from what I understand, so far the city doesn't have an accurate count of how many cyclists there are daily. And I'm not saying that they have an accurate count of how many car drivers there are daily, but they have a rough estimation. And I don't think that even exists for the cycling community. And I understand that we're a minority, and I understand that that's going to be a fairly difficult thing to do, but it would be good to have a large turnout of people come and say, listen, something needs to happen, somebody needs to stand up, we are here, we want to be counted. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is not by getting people around to gather, to rally, to listen to a bunch of city councilmen talk about programs that exist but haven't been implemented. It's a whole lot easier to do that if the city was to put together a bike stock, was to put together a welcoming party for this master plan, or even a party to acknowledge its existence or its whatever's happening with it right now. You know what I mean?
Well, let me reflect back on my earliest days of involvement. I was still in high school, and there was the beginning of the environmental movement, modern day environmental movement. There was mass bike rides. I remember one organized by Nancy Perlman, who's now on the community college board through her Concerned Bicyclists for the Environment, and we had 3,000 to 4,000 cyclists converge at various locations, meeting locations, and then met at one central location where all the smaller groups of hundreds of cyclists came together, and 3,000 to 4,000 cyclists in one particular park. And that was good, and I think that's even good, in this day and age too, for just, for the awareness of the cyclists and the media coverage. I don't discount that. But what I think would also be great is if we could coordinate such rides, such events such as that, for those cyclists then to show up at each of these 4 workshops, say on the bicycle plan. What if 1,000 cyclists showed up for one of these workshops? Of course, there wouldn't be enough seats.
Right.
But more importantly, I think we need to do that to the decision makers, because frankly, the reason that I don't think cyclists are getting the respect that we do, and the reason that DOT can get away with, spinning something that's not going their way by calling it was just a rumor, is because we don't, they're not being held accountable by their bosses, by the mayor and the city council. So what we really need to do is have hundreds and thousands of cyclists show up at the city council, show up at something perhaps where the mayor is at, and maybe they'll say, wow, we never have this many people show up of any particular groups, and look at all these cyclists. And maybe then the mentality of not just DOT, but the other city departments that have their hands dealing with bicycle matters might change, and we might be able to move up the radar screen, move up on the priority list, et cetera. So I think coordinating some event that would give the cyclists an opportunity to do something of a mass nature is good. The challenge is going to be that the workshops will likely be on a Saturday out in the communities. Right. The decisions being made that will affect our streets and our lives for the next decade or so are going to be made weekdays down at City Hall. And that's always been the challenge in terms of being able to get people out in mass to those particular events.
What kind of a heads up? How much time are we going to have in order before the city council meetings that are going to approve the master plan are announced? You know what I mean? Are we going to have a month to prepare in order to rally cyclists for this master plan meeting?
Well, first of all, city council agendas are set but 72 hours in advance, 3 days. There may be more notice than that to say, well, it'll be on the council agenda a week or 2 weeks. But ultimately, this process will unfold with the workshops and with the city planning commission. Then it'll go to the city council committee. Ultimately, we have to make our influence before it gets the full city council, in my opinion, because then you're starting to count 15 council members, and you've got to get a majority, 8 of them, on your side. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's better to have a good plan that they could vote on than a bad plan that we have to change at the city council. That's my personal feeling. But time frame, it probably is a few more months. And it could be 3 months, it could be 4 months. Just depends on when this thing is released and how it's received, how the workshops go, and they may say, oh, well, we really made some mistakes here. We need to go and do some revisions before we take it to Planning Commission.
Well, let's get a heads up to when those workshops are.
Right.
So if you could help keep us informed, and we'll do our best to try and keep our listeners informed.
Right. Let me give you the website, or give the listeners the website that is set up for the bicycle master plan. There are currently the maps draft maps for the city on there. And so that's something people could do right now, is to go to www.labikeplan.org. And let me repeat that, www.labikeplan.org.
Right.
And, they could at least right now view the bike maps in their particular area that they're concerned with or familiar with. And there is a contact form up there as well that people can submit their comments right now, just based on the maps, or even if they just want to make general comments. And hopefully they would get on a notification list as well, to be notified directly. Can't promise that, but that would be my hope, that if they took the time to make comments and suggestions from the website, that then their email...
That they'd be notified when the workshops were set up.
Right. So it'd be good to just test the system. And so people, go to the website, look at the maps, look at the area around where you live and work and where you travel on bicycle, and see how they've designated, just on the maps, without knowing the plan, without knowing the text, but just do the best they can. And maybe they missed a street that is wide enough and be good enough for bike lanes or some other accommodation.
Is there a blog where we could probably find this information? Is the LA Bike Blog the place to go for the average Joe?
As news comes up, the blogs do cover it. When there's a meeting coming up or something that happened, they do a good job of reporting that. But, I think right now on this plan, as soon as the plan's released, it's going to be posted on this website. But yeah, as people get a chance to see it, view it, comment on, obviously those comments will be done on the various bicycle blogs. So folks should tune into their favorite blogs.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention about what's happening locally or even nationally as far as cycling advocacy goes?
Well, I would encourage folks, if they hear of something, to get in touch with either myself or any members of the Bicycle Advisory Committee or a bicycle advocacy group such as the Bicycle Coalition, because we don't necessarily know everything. We're not necessarily informed of everything. And sometimes it just takes one person finding out something to share that. Don't assume, bicyclists should not assume that other bicyclist activists or representatives, like we are in the City Bicycle Advisory Committee, that we know everything. It's a big city, and there's lots of niches and corners where things can be hidden or just not be known. And so I encourage the listeners to just keep that communication be a two-way method of communication, so that we can all work together and help each other when we find out about such things. So that's what I tried to do on this Reseda Boulevard issue, for better or for worse. I'm optimistic that as a result of one person taking one line on a one-page report and getting that out to the community, that ultimately, it's not pretty, it's not, and it wasn't fun, but I think hopefully we'll end up with the desired result, which is, a bike lane where otherwise the city bureaucracy would have buried it. And I think we can replicate that throughout the city if people step up to the plate. So I encourage them to do that.
Okay. Even if it's 3 miles at a time, Glenn Bailey, I appreciate everything that you've done. And those were 3 important miles, and I hope that they're a milestone for the cycling community in Los Angeles. Once again, I'd like to reiterate that one of the places you said to stop by was labikeplan.org. So if you're still listening, you're still holding on with us here, labikeplan.org. Stop by, drop them a line, let them know that you're interested in being contacted with the dates for the workshops and for the approval council meetings for the Master Bike Plan. Glenn Bailey, once again, thank you very much for your work with the LA Bike Advisory Committee, and we hope to talk to you again in the future.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks.
See ya. Well, there was a lot of information there.
Wow. It sounds great. The Valley usually always is like the evil stepsister that always never gets any attention, right?
Yeah.
Or is it the pretty stepsister? I can never keep that grim fairy tale straight. But it's good to see that because the Valley has been shunned before. I know that just recently there, and I wrote you a note about it, that Paul Krikorian was trying to get. Apparently, there was some mess with the speed law there, and he tried to get just a bill passed in the state so they could not have to rescind to increase the speed law in order to reduce the traffic flow, which seemed ridiculous because people were already speeding. It was this big conundrum, and finally what it came down to is the city council said, or the state said, no, you city councils, you have no authority over the state. So in the end, that bill failed, but a tremendous amount of bike support was rounded up for that. And as I say that, someone else is on the phone right now. Who do we have on the phone?
On the phone, we have Orisha Smolarski, and Orisha is with the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition.
And Telematique. You always forget that.
Yes, I do.
I love the music.
I do always seem to forget Telematique.
Her and Summer do a great job of we see them at all the bike events, and we begin kind of jaded because the music is really good, and people are going, whoa, where did that come from? And it's like I always have to say you should mention that when you mention them. But anyway, let's get her on the line.
So Orisha has some pretty good points kind of from the private sector and not from the public sector. So let's hear what she's got here. Orisha, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. We've been talking a little bit today with Glenn Bailey, and we've been talking about what's going on with Reseda Boulevard and with the Bicycle Master Plan. And I'd like to find out what the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition take on that is.
Well, in regards to the Reseda bike lane, we have been, we responded pretty quickly by putting out an action item and was able to actually gather a lot of support and presence at the Northridge West Neighborhood Council meeting on Tuesday.
Right.
And I'm sure, as Glenn told you, which was, the vote was turned down, which is really good. And also in response to that, the mayor, some representatives at the mayor's office actually contacted me and requested a meeting in regards to the Reseda bike lane issue, which is really, which is a step forward.
That's awesome.
From the
that
mayor's
somebody
office.
actually from the mayor's office is even interested.
Exactly, and they were sort of surprised to see what was going on, and so pretty much the outcome of that meeting is also encouraging. Some of the mayoral staff actually suggested that if there is community consensus, a bike lane could be completed this year. The potential for that could happen. And so LACBC, in conjunction with other advocates, has put together a Reseda bike lane campaign to install the already approved bike lane on Reseda Boulevard by the end of 2009. And so one of the things that we have decided to do is to get in touch with the council member Dennis Zine,
right,
as well as Craig Smith, who actually are in, Reseda Boulevard goes through their districts. And so what people can do is to write a letter to these council members and let them know that they would like to see this already approved extension of the bike lane on Reseda Boulevard. Because we need to get also, council member support, we also need to get community support, because this is definitely good for pedestrians, it's good for businesses, it's really good for the neighborhood, and that is what what makes the difference, because it keeps neighborhoods safe. And so I think that's what the politicians in that area want to hear. So we issued actually just yesterday another action item asking people to send in letters. We sent out a sample letter. So if people want to get involved, they can contact us.
So how do we contact you guys?
Well, you can email me at info@la-bike.org.
Okay.
Or you can contact me directly at Orisha, AURISHA, at la-bike.org. Right. And we can get you get you all the material that you need. We're also looking for volunteers, obviously, to go in the area and to talk to the people, local businesses, and talk to them about the issue, and talk to them about the benefits of having a bike lane versus a peak hour lane there, and get their support as well, and get letters of support from the local businesses. So this is something that if we mobilize quickly, we can see some positive moving forward, and actually, get this lane on the street as soon as we can.
So I want to ask a little bit about whether or not this is one small step for LA County, one giant leap for Northridge, or the other way around. Is this something that is going to translate into more bike lanes being implemented easier and faster throughout the Los Angeles County area, or is this going to be something that we're going to have to stay on top of every 3-mile problem?
Well, that's a really good question, and that is our main concern as well. We don't want to be playing defensive all the time, and that's what it seems like is happening. Is DOT does these, sort of these secretive plans, and then we find out about it and we react, and hopefully we're there in time to stop, again, another bike lane not being implemented. So what we're hoping is through our constant dialogue with the mayoral staff as well as with council members, that we will be able to sort of, implement the idea that the political leadership needs to start stepping up a little bit and needs to really use their leadership to make sure that DOT doesn't continue to do this.
Arisha,
Yes.
I've got a quick question for you here. Like the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition, you guys are a private group. We spoke with Glenn Bailey, who is actually inside the Bicycle Advisory Committee, which is kind of a little more privy to some of the public documents that are circulating inside the system.
Right.
And what's been happening, it seems like, is the private sector here, the coalition, seems to catch things as they are imminently dangerous. It's on the horizon that we're going to cut all of this bicycle funding. On the horizon that we're going to cut this bicycle route. It's on the horizon that we're going to lose these Department of Transportation bikeways members. So everything that we've been seeing has been defensive. There have been a lot of action items. What are we going to be taking an offensive? How are we going to be doing that?
Well, how are we going to? Well, that's the question. Well, hopefully with the bike master plan, and hopefully with more support from leadership, as I was mentioning before, DOT is not going to be able to actually do this. And one thing that is also important is that there's more transparency. There's more transparency that comes from the Department of Transportation. That actually this information is disseminated more publicly as opposed to staying internal, because they are a public agency, and in a way they do have a responsibility to the citizens, and we feel that obviously that's not being respected. And so hopefully with more support from our elected officials, this transparency will become more apparent. So, and also LA County Bicycle Coalition and other advocates and the BAC, now that we have a really strong chair, hopefully we'll also be able to be privy sooner than we may be, and pass on that information to us and to the people who can actually help make a difference.
What kind of constituency, what kind of base does the County Bicycle Coalition represent?
Well, we represent cyclists of all types, be it the roadies or the urban cyclists, commuters, mountain bikers. But there's also other advocacy groups out there that represent the same group of people who may, who ride in different areas, et cetera. So we are an advocacy group. There are other advocacy groups as well that have been very, very crucial to making some of these important changes also in LA. So.
Okay. What your email blasts, the action calls, the action items that you guys send out, how many people does that reach?
Well, we have about 5,000 people on that email blast. So.
That's
and
awesome.
I know people are forwarding them along as well. So hopefully, between 5 and 6 is right now. And the more people who become members, the more that will rise as well. And that's something that's really important as well, is that we are a member-supported organization. So that helps us stay alive so that we can continue to get information, so that we can continue to make sure that things happen in LA.
Where are you at? Where would you guys like to be at as far as membership goes, and where are you at currently?
Currently, we're probably hovering around 900, which has been an increase in the past year, which is great. And we would like to break, we'd like to get up to 1,400 by the end of the year. So.
Okay. So if you're listening and you're not an LACBC member, you're not getting the email alerts, the action items, you don't know what is going on in the community, where could I go?
You could go to our website, which is www.la-bike.org, la-bike.org, and click on the Become a Member button, and it'll take you about 3 minutes.
Okay. That sounds great.
It's only $35 a year, so it's a good investment in your future.
Yep. Some of the other benefits that come with that, other than these email blasts, is there anything else that we get out of that?
Well, you get advocacy.
Yeah.
You get a bike plan, hopefully a bike plan. You get a bike map. You get these email blasts. We have a quarterly zine that comes out. We have discounts to local bike shops.
So there's a lot that I get for that $35. Well,
exactly.
I'll probably make it back. So, okay. Well, that sounds fantastic. Arisha, I'd like to thank you. And is there anything coming up that you'd like to invite everybody to go to, or?
Well, I would just like everyone to check our website and to get involved in the latest campaigns. Not only the Reseda Bike Lane, but we also have the 4th Street Bike Boulevard, which we'd like to see implemented within the next, year as well. So that's another campaign that we're working on. So get involved. All it takes is sending a letter sometimes or making a phone call that can make a huge difference. So visit us, become a member, and hopefully we'll see you out there riding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Arisha
you.
Smolarski, info@la-bike.org and la-bike.org for the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition. Thank you, Arisha, for all you guys' work and dealing with the bureaucracy that you get to deal with.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for doing Bike Talk. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to be on air with you guys.
Sounds good. Have a good weekend, Arisha.
Okay, you too.
See ya. So that was Arisha Smolarski. I forgot to ask her about Telematique and what she had coming up with that.
I'm sure she knows what it is. Isn't she in it?
Yeah, she does some amazing, I believe it's violin work with it.
Yeah.
So
and singing in French.
In French.
In
yep.
French.
So,
but yeah, I think it's really good what they do, the advocacy and stuff. But on a personal level, you really have to get involved yourself.
Yeah.
Whether it be having somebody advocate for you, you really have to know what they advocate for. Wait a second, Nick's going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say the 4th Street Bicycle Boulevard is something that we've mentioned a few times, but I think we're going to try to get, Dorothy Lay's come on, and I think we're going to try to get that and the Ciclovia, in one show.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, we've talked about the Bicycle Boulevard before. We've talked about advocacy before. Other than the Reseda Bike Lane, I think all of these are points that we've made before. And it just takes a little bit of reminding every once in a while. It's hard. It can be hard to stay active in the political events that are going on. There's so much happening all the time. I almost always see Chicken Leather there. He's had pretty much everything. But for the average person, it's hard to juggle a full schedule and a political event that you find out 72 hours before it happens, So it's something that I'd like to challenge everyone to try and be a little better at, or to at least make a couple attempts a year to show up to their council meetings. And I'm always pushing the parties. So the parties like Bike Stock. I think it's a great idea. Thank you very much, Chicken Leather, for the name.
I guess it's out there for all of just the ether, but we're gonna see if we can't organize that. Either that or a beer summit.
So something on that note, we talked a little bit about the Bicycle Film Festival coming up on the 26th through the 29th, or the 28th and the 29th are actually the films. On the 30th, that Sunday, there is going to be a block party in support of the Bicycle Film Festival. I want to invite everybody to come out. I know it is not an official bike stock. There probably won't be very much to do with council meetings or advocacy, though I think we are trying to get Garcetti's office to send down some people.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the August 30th at Heliotrope, right at Heliotrope in Melrose. We'll be closing down the street. We're gonna try and do some exhibition polo games, have a couple of contests, and see what happens. Have some folks out there with some tents.
Yeah, and you guys can make fun of me. I'll try to play polo. That's really seems like a hard game to do on a bicycle.
It's great. So we've got. It looks like Nick's got an NPR story pulled up here. Once again, I want to mention the Bicycle Film Festival this year, just because of the fact that they have changed theaters. The theater is going to be downtown,
which seems like a better theater for transit and a lot of other things. I know that late at night we'd wrap up and then we'd look for a place to eat because all of Hollywood would shut down, and it would only be like we'd run over to Thai Town and hopefully find one place open. And it was just like the last time we showed up. This is for all you people out there that are looking at what to open up. Where are the taco trucks in Hollywood after the Bike Film Festival? There was nothing.
Yep.
And we had to go downtown and finally hit Kuraku or something. So
yeah,
in one sense,
great,
I guess we're going to be
great little noodle joint in Little Tokyo.
We're going to be closer to
this.
the noodle joints downtown after this thing. But the Independent just opened up. I know that the Echo Park Film Center had their big graffiti extravaganza showing and art show down there. So it is accessible. We want to thank Kelly who set it up. And, Brett Barber, we're going to definitely be talking to him in the next week or two. And some other Shakira who always does the advanced PR. We'll try and get him on the show. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, this coming Saturday at Orange 20,
Not today.
This next Saturday, we're going to be doing a party from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. that is going to be in support of the riders from 42 Below who have ridden across the country. It is going to be open to the public. 42 Below is a vodka company, so they are going to be catering it. There will be beverages for those over 21, and then there will be Gatorade for those under 21. So come on by.
And bike responsibly, guys. I know that you guys get all jacked up on the Gatorade, and then you just feel like you can do the tour.
Gatorade gives you wings.
The tour there you go. Yeah.
So, and then also, one of the things that I wanted to mention about the Independent, where the Bicycle Film Festival is being shown this year, it is a much smaller theater than where it's been in the past in Hollywood. So I would definitely recommend advance tickets for this set of movies. And there are some great movies. If you're a BMX rider, the story of FBM and how that came to be. If you are a fixed gear rider, the story of Gorilla Bikes and how they're made, and basically there are just some amazing movies this year. I think that might be all that we have for you today.
To quote Yogi Bear, not Yogi Berra, Yogi Bear, hey Ranger Bear, I want to get on my bike and have some picnic baskets, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, or something like that. Because as we know, healthcare begins with you.